Welcome to today's webinar, courtesy of the Kentucky Small Business Development Center in Louisville. Discover no-cost, valuable business services to help you thrive, whether starting your entrepreneurial journey or scaling your existing business. We have the resources and expertise to help you succeed. For more information, please visit our website or text 502-977-5800. Thank you for joining us today. Feel free to use the chat feature to ask questions or engage with our speaker. Let's get started.
Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to another Toolkit Tuesday. It's a great Tuesday here in Louisville, Kentucky. And as always, I'm joined by my good friend and coworker, Janet Flaw. Hey, Janet, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Dave. How are you today?
All right, trying to stay cool like everyone else.
Yes.
So again,
Yeah, a
I'm Dave.
little bit
I'm
of
the
break,
director.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm Dave. I'm the director here at the Louisville Small Business Development Center. I just want to remind you that in addition to these webinars that we do every week to bring you, great speakers and topics of interest and content, we're here to help you launch your business, fund your business, grow your business, whatever. Just reach out to us. We're here to help. Everything we do is free. Check us out at Kentucky SBDC. That's Kentucky all spelled out /Louisville. And we'd be happy to get on a Zoom call with you and see what we can do. But before we dive in with our speaker today, as always, just to make sure that we can, you can see and hear us. If you look at the bottom of your screen, there should be a toolbar there. If you don't, just hover over it, it should pop up. And there you'll see the little chat button. Click on that. And it would be great to see if you wouldn't just say hello and tell us where you're joining from and that everything's working fine. And I can see people kind of popping in here. Oops, I misspelled hello. Dang, that's what happens when you get to going a little bit too fast. So, yeah, just say hello and where you're joining from. And I am in Louisville, Kentucky. I think we are the heat island capital of the world. If you haven't been in Louisville in the heat of summer, it's pretty brutal here, especially this week. So there's Janet. Janet's up in our northern office in southern Indiana, Sellersburg. Hey, Michelle. Michelle is in Lex. Good to see you. Hi, Ann. Good to see you as well. See everybody kind of popping in, getting settled. So, hey, Aminata. How is everyone? All right. Well, there's a bunch of different ways to go into business. You can start a business, buy a business, and there's a third way is maybe you can pop into a franchise. And just in full disclosure, there was a long time in my career when I didn't think franchises were a good opportunity, but then through a weird series of events, I actually owned a couple franchises, and I really learned the value of having a proven system that you can use to get going quickly and have some folks there with you all the time that have had worked through the mistakes, figured out how things work, and help you be successful. So, to kind of take a look at this, I've invited my good friend and franchise expert, Gerald Joyner, to join us today to talk about franchise opportunities and just anything that you'd like to know about that. At the end or in the chat feature, just if you have any questions or comments, just put those in the chat, and we will have a discussion or answer your questions, whatever. But Gerald, how are you today?
Doing fine, doing fine. And
Good.
good afternoon to everybody.
Yeah. Gerald, thanks for joining us today. You are just a few franchise experts that I know, so I'm glad you were here. You had some opportunity to come and share with everyone. So again, this is an opportunity for everyone to get your questions answered with a true expert. So no question is too small or too insignificant. Just put it in the chat and we'll figure it out as we go along here. And when we get done, we'll send everybody the recording, slides, whatever. And so you can have this with you as part of your records and part of your database. So Gerald, tell us a little bit about you.
Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. Gerald Joyner, native Louisvillian, graduate of the University of Louisville and Bellarmine University twice, where I actually met Dave.
Yeah. We
got
were,
to understand his deep expertise
we
within
were
small businesses.
students in class, you know. Gerald was much smarter than me, so, but I made it through.
I made it through on Dave's coattail. He's being kind. He's being really kind. But I have I spent 15 years in corporate America, and decided that it was time for me to take a pivot. And I wanted to get back into business ownership. Disclosure, I have owned a small business or a startup. My father also owned a small grocery store, so I've watched an existing business be sold as well, and decided a process, an existing process, a proven process, was the route that I wanted to go this next time in business for myself. So I am a franchise consultant and franchise owner, and work with individuals daily in various aspects of discussions about how they make ownership fit their lifestyles, goals, and dreams.
Let's dive right in, Joe. Go ahead and let you
How do we do that?
share your screen and
Can you, whoops, I don't know. Yep, can
there
you
you
see?
go. Yep, you're looking good.
Great, 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 everyone. And I would like this to be as conversational as we can make it. My goal here is to talk about franchising a bit and show you some examples to see how they relate in real world scenarios. So if you have any questions, by all means, list those in the chat. We'll respond as we go. But outside of that, we'll just have a conversation together this afternoon. So let's jump off into it. So ultimately, the purpose of today is really I would like to bring forward how franchising works as a career pivot for others. The AI is doing a lot of things within the workplace. It is doing a lot of things within being a disruptor in various industries. Franchising is not an industry unimpacted by the use of AI. Brands are using it in their back office systems to make things more efficient for operations for their franchisees. But the today's goal, and people are thinking. I remember when I was in college, it was to get a good job and work 30 years and then retire, right? Because that was what was the right thing to do. But today, the conversation is moving from having job security to having income security. And franchising is a route that'll allow you to have that level of income security. But also um, to teach you about a structured process of evaluation that we use to help individuals and their journey to franchise ownership. If you think about it, there are about 4,000, according to the International Franchise Association or the IFA, there are about 4,000 franchise organizations in the United States. And selecting the right one is what we're really seeking to help individuals do. And finally, today we'll talk a little bit about how that's done, and we'll talk a little bit about three particular case study personas that I wanted to use. Each person has a different motivation. They also have different life challenges, and maybe seeking different outcomes, but they all have one destination to get towards those outcomes, and that's business ownership. And that's where we'll dive off. So if there are no immediate questions, we'll move on. So what is franchising and what isn't franchising? And I'll move from left to right here. Franchising is a proven business model with existing systems, training, and support. A lot of times when you go into business, and I remember doing this from a startup perspective, you're creating everything on your own from scratch, right? You are going out, finding your prospects, you're bringing them in the door, you're making sure you're processing whatever your product or your service is to provide, then you're presenting that back to the actual customer. Within franchising, you already have an existing system where marketing, where product support, where technology is already baked in for the actual owner. What franchising isn't, and I'll go from left to right on what it is and what it isn't. Franchising isn't a guarantee. It is a proven system, but you still have to go in and work the processes to make a successful outcome come to mind. Franchising is a way to reduce risk as compared to starting from scratch. All franchises are regulated by the Federal Trade Commission and required to produce what is called a franchise disclosures document, or an FDD. With that FDD, think of it as a prospectus on your business, but it requires the franchise to list its operations, its financial successes, any legal cases that could be opened with the franchises, its plans for growth and acceleration, and also where it's getting its funding. Think of it as a perspective on the business. So they're required, as you go in, to showcase how they're operating and how success is working, one, for their most successful owners, as well as their mid-tier owners and their lower tier owners as well. It doesn't automatically provide passive income. Every franchise is going to require some level of ownership and management to it, whether that you're a passive owner where you have a manager in place, or whether you're an owner operator where you're in managing the day-to-day aspects of that business. Franchise is a structured path to entrepreneurship. Again, it is a proven model that's worked in different markets. And it may be even working in the market that you're seeking to open a franchise in. However, every franchisee is different from an operations perspective, and what a franchise requires from every operator is a little bit different. So it requires your sweat equity and your focus on the processes in order for success to be derived. Franchising is not buying a job. Although some brands do require you to have hands-on daily, many are scalable and require ownership and management. Someone to be able to come in X number of hours, 5 to 10 a week, take a look at operations reports, and also manage how that business works. So, it's not necessarily purchasing a job unless that is what your goal is. Some people's desires is to come in and be hands-on and day-to-day and deal with customers, and others is to have more of a passive investor model where they work with a general manager who is going to run the operations day-to-day, and they're responsible for reviewing operations in the books and making sure that we're meeting the goals that are set for the organization. No questions? We'll move to the next slide. How does the evaluation work? At FriendNet, we use what is called an entrepreneurial profile. And you can think of that entrepreneurial profile as a Myers-Briggs S-type test for each person who is seeking to own a franchise. And we're really trying to get 4 things from the review of your profile. We're trying to understand your personal and your lifestyle goals to help design the right business for you. Some people could desire more flexibility in their schedule. Some folks could desire a true 9-to-5 work experience. Some folks would want to travel more. We would want to align a process type that aligns to where your goals are. There's no reason for you to have access to a 24/7 water or cleaning restoration service if your desire is to work 9 to 5 through the day. So we want to match you up with the type of operations you're seeking for your lifestyle. But also skills and transferable assets, strength assets, right? Franchises really request that their owners be able to do 4 things, and they're not mutually exclusive things, and there could be some overlap with them. The first thing that they want you to be able to do is be able to sell. They want you to be able to hit the ground and run with whether B2B sales or B2C sales. The second aspect that they want you to do is be able to market. Some brands only require that you be able to go out and get involved in Google Ads and various types of campaigns to market your services to the business or to the customers that you would have. Others will require you to network and go out and have chamber memberships, BNI groups, realtor associations, et cetera, based upon the type of business that you select, for you to be able to go and network and kind of meet people and talk about your service and build relationships in that way. And lastly, the last thing that all franchises want their owners to be able to do is be able to manage people. So those 4 things are things that are pretty much AI proof at this moment in time. And those are the four skills that really franchises look for their franchisees to be able to do in some aspect. Your financial parameters and risk tolerances. Those are extremely important things for us to understand as you're matching into the business. We've seen brands in our inventory have a total investment entry on the low end to be $120,000 or so. And at the high end, I've seen them close to $1 million. And that's based upon the type of business that a franchisee would go into. So, there are some businesses that require large commercial retail spaces with inventory that you would have to maintain and keep up. And others are home-based businesses that will allow you to work out of your home with very little overhead associated with them. Those things vary, and those needs of a potential franchisee also vary. So we try to have conversations around what those financial goals are, what you're understanding your risks and your liquidity when we're presenting a franchise back to you. And lastly, and importantly, as all of them, because they are all equally important, but business model fit, right? Are you the brand that we introduce you to and you begin to have conversations with? Do you see yourself in that business model? If you want something that allows you to work with your hands or something to be more blue collar, there's no reason for us to introduce to you a brand that requires you to manage people or manage directly business to business relationships, right? Or would require you to meet in offices. We want to ensure that we're modeling the types of businesses that are of most interest and most passion for our business owners. And we see this really impacts, these four things really impact the decisions that our franchisees make when they're selecting their business. So, what we'll do next is I've got 3 scenarios matching potential franchise owners who went to purchase franchises, and we'll run through some of these scenarios. If you see yourself in some of these, great, place that in the chat. If you have questions about anything that I discussed, please place that in the chat as well, and we'll continue to move forward. The first one is case study 1 is the downsized professional. I've been speaking with people in Louisville and across the country. And again, AI has been a big driver, but company restructures and the advent of technology are impacting organizations very differently. But in here, I was talking to Tiffany, who's 49 years of age. She was single with no children and as a mid-level manager in a factory operations center. And her position was going to be, she's going to be laid off because her position was going to be eliminated based upon a restructure her company was doing. She wanted to have replacement income. She wanted something that was going to be stable and predictable for her. Because from our conversation, she had been through a couple of restructures and saw this coming, and she wanted to get in early enough to have something she would be able to pivot to. She also wasn't interested in building something in our discussion. She didn't want to build a business from scratch, right? She wanted to have something that she could be in business for herself, but not by herself. And she had some concerns about risk and ramp up in this. So, of course, her goals were income replacement, to have something that was stable, that would be recession either resistant or recession resilient. And she also wanted to make a community impact. She wanted to do provide a value related service for the community in which she resides. You can see her skill set. She had a strong operational background. She enjoyed managing people and processes. And she was also comfortable managing technical resources. Her financial parameters are listed there, where she had a net worth and of between 150 and 300K. And she was very, very interested in going the SBA route. And that's important as you go forward. There are several ways that one can fund a franchise, and SBA is one of the more attractive ways because of the federal regulation and the FDD placement or the FTC federal regulation. Small Business Association automatically approves all franchises that are FTC certified and have their financial disclosures document yearly. That means that they're automatically on a list for all lenders who are SBA lenders. And all the franchisee has to do is meet the liquidity and credit score requirements that that lender would have for them to be able to qualify. She wanted a manager run or owner supervised business. And again, we talked about a essential service with consistent demand. The industry that fit her and that she picked was senior care. She wanted to do non-medical senior care. So she picked the non-medical senior care franchise because it was an essential service. The number of individuals that are turning 65 and in our society, and folks are having various health conditions and issues. She wanted to have something that she felt would always be needed, but then would always provide a service for those who may be in the sandwich generation with children and they have older parents that they're also caring for as well. So she liked the predictable operations, the strong training and support, as well as the SBA-friendly financials that were provided by this franchise. So, she is closed on this franchise and is beginning to get her state-related certifications and walking towards opening her facility this fall. So really excited for the work that Tiffany has. We've seen her in case study 1. Case study 2, we have Danielle. And Danielle's a corporate executive, and she was seeking to solely have passive income or semi-absentee ownership or income. So she wants to stay within her job. She's very successful, has a high level of income, but she wants to be able to diversify that income and wants to build an asset outside of investing without leaving her place of employment. So her goals were to build, again, a secondary stream of income, to maintain her corporate role, but to leverage the capital that she has through her role, but not use all of her time because she's spending a great deal of her time, working a very demanding job. Her skill set was strategic leadership and team management, and she is extremely comfortable delegating to people. So the passive income portion and being the manager who comes in for 5 to 10 hours a week to look over the books and making sure that the numbers are matching the goals that are set is what she wanted in this investment. You can see her financial parameters there. And she was also open to have multi-unit ownership. And when we think about multi-unit or multi-territory, you may hear some folks talk, is typically when you purchase a franchise, you would purchase a territory based upon whatever those franchise requirements. Some could be square miles, some could be number of households within the community. It just varies on the particular organization. And she wanted to be able to have multiple units within the same city, or maybe even multiple units in varying cities she was looking to purchase. But her funding options, the way she chose to fund her investment, she was going to look at a combination of ROBS, which is rollover for business services from a 401k. She wanted to use a portion from that. She wanted to use a SBA a portion, and then also a line of credit, a home equity line of credit from our home. So she was going to look at those 3 ways to finance her investment. Again, we talked about her model being semi-absentee, and she was looking something that provided a scalable model with strong KPIs. And what she selected was a boutique fitness studio. She wanted to have a boutique Pilates studio. Pilates is a very active industry. People are really focused on the Pilates industries. I think globally, that's a $10 billion industry. I did not recognize that Pilates had the impact that it is having. It would allow her to, hire a general manager and be structured and scalable revenue with her studio. She could actually go out and pre-sale memberships. So she would have a set of income prior to her actually opening her studio, which provides her for her reoccurring income prior to day one, and then as she goes forward as well, a targeted set of revenue that she's collected from her pre-sales. See that? See question I received an invite this Weber last minute. To the context of world looks good. Yep, great. Glad to have you, Ann. So what she selected was, a multi-unit boutique studio that had strong brand recognition and a proven semi-absentee model. That she's going to have a little bit more of an investment here because she's going to carry both retail space and the equipment cost, but it's scalable for her. That again, strong unit economics from both pre-sales as well as ongoing memberships. Again, she's manager run. She doesn't have to dedicate all of her time on day to day on making sure operations come to life. She can work with her general manager over the various locations that she has, and again, predictable membership revenue. So it's just another way that someone who is interested in continuing in their day job, but also looking to diversify their income for any changes or any additional investments they wish to make, and have another line of passive investment income coming into. Lastly, we're going to look at Tony. Tony's a veteran, and he also works a job, married with a couple of kids, and he was looking again to get into business ownership. Well, Tony wasn't interested in necessarily leaving his job, but he was interested in diversifying the income base for his family, right? He high income, he wants diversification, and he's interested in semi-absentee models. Again, we've said build a secondary income, maintain his corporate role. And again, he's very similar to Danielle. He wants to leverage capital and not his time, right? He's a director for a financial services company. So he is good at developing business plans and crafting leadership mission for his teams. He's also good at managing his leaders, and is very comfortable delegating tasks. So he too open to multi-unit, multi-territory investment, but different than where Danielle was, he wants to use home equity as well as SBA as an option on how he funds his business. And Tony selected a cleaning and restoration business. It stood out to him, one, because he could build a model and have that be manager run. He felt the 24/7 impact of running a water cleaning restoration service was something that he liked. He liked being able to help people out in an emergency situation. He felt his sales pitches outside of doing the cleaning work, which could be both commercial or residential, as far as carpets and flooring is concerned, could also be offset very from a powerful economic standpoint by working with insurance companies around, water damage or water issues. And as anyone who's lived in Louisville, Kentucky knows, when we have active rains, we have sometimes flooding in various communities. Those floodings sometimes back up into folks' homes. So, water and water issues are not something that is uncommon for us here locally. So again, proven semi-absentee model. It was scalable, strong unit economics. He could work with a general manager to run that, as well as have offset the bigger scores in doing the water damage work that you would see kind of in a before and after on the bottom, to having some reoccurring revenue with cleaning services work, right? You're able to kind of build in and balance with hitting singles, right, on the cleaning works that you do, whether that would be commercial or residential based upon square footage, then, a water restoration job that is going to be, potentially in the thousands to tens of thousands of dollars, but those don't come as often, right? We don't get those big rains. Water pipes don't burst as often, right? So they're kind of episodic experiences that take place where he can have the consistent income on the cleaning side, but then offset that, by emergencies that his company would be called into. This model does require someone to have a 24/7 operation, because those water pipes don't tell you before they're going to burst, or those floods don't tell you before they're going to come, right? We, kind of operate them at the whims of what Mother Nature is going to provide us. So to offset that, he wanted some consistency in operation, and that cleaning component works well with that. I'm sorry, and that is not case study two. It's actually the third case study in my apology for not updating that slide. So what does FranNet do? Ultimately, we match prospects with franchisers. And as David said, the SBDC work is done free of charge. We also work with our clients free of charge. We seek to educate. We provide choices that allow our franchisors or potential franchisees to make informed decisions. We pre-screen. It's very important to note this, second to the last bullet. I do not sell franchises. What I do is provide choices to candidates that match your goals, that match your income requirements, that match your risk tolerances and preferences. We're providing you matches that based on your desired income and financial and future goals. Again, our services are at no cost to the client. My clients do not compensate me, and very similarly to the way a real estate agent would work, if the client then signs on with the brand, I would be compensated by the brand, but only when that client has signed a deal and they've agreed to be in business with one another. So again, our services are always 100% free to anyone who is a client that is coming to us. And I've talked with various people, some who are interested in the startup world, and I've referred them to talk with Dave at SBDC. I've had some clients who said, you know what, I'm more interested in buying an existing business. And I've been able to connect them with business brokers who could provide for them a list who hold inventories of existing existing businesses to sell. So I am a conduit to guide people through the franchise purchasing experience. However, I just don't talk to people who want to purchase franchises. I would take them through our consulting process if they do, but it's not a dead end to talk to me if they don't. I can advise them or make connections with them for various services that they have, or various services and connection points that I have in the community. And with that being said, this comes to the ending of my presentation. If you're interested to learn more about me, my various contact links are there in front of you. Or if you're interested in taking an entrepreneurial assessment, please scan the QR code or your phone over the QR code, and that'll take you directly to the entrepreneurial assessment. I will advise that assessment is going to ask of some financial information of you. If you're not prepared or don't want to enter financial information at this time, do not let that stop you from taking the assessment. You can complete the assessment without completing that section, that information. However, that would trigger for me to set up a meeting with you. And at some point, we are going to have to, talk about your, financial direction and that you wish to go in, and your current financial situation from an assets and liability and net worth perspective, because that just aligns us with setting up the right type of business for you. But with that being said, if there are any questions or anyone has anything that may have been spawned from the discussion, please feel free to ask them in the chat.
Yeah. Chat is open. That was great, Gerald. Thank you. Do you have a couple questions here? And you answered quite a bit, as and kind of dispelled some of these myths, especially that I've had in the past. But what's like the first step? The entrepreneurial assessment that you talk about. I've liked that. I've been through that before. It's a good place to kind of get your head around some things. But what's like the first step that you would advise someone? Especially if they want to do something, not sure what the opportunities are. What is that first step?
Everything for us starts with a conversation. I have a conversation with my clients just to understand, what their goals are, how quickly they're beginning to move, what their drivers are, right? Because it is a big mind shift to go from, if you're specifically if the person is working, to go from being a W-2 employee to ownership. It is a change. And you begin to think about things when you think about making that change that you don't think about when you're just thinking about going into business for yourself. So I like to have conversation to understand, what the drivers are that brought us to where we are today, how quickly you're thinking about moving, what the future looks like for you, what being in business will do for you from a dreams perspective. Because really what I want to be able to do is line the experiences back to the right type of business. So when you take the entrepreneurial profile, we're really taking it, understanding what your drivers are. Because if you can understand your why, then it is very easy to hook you with the type of business that matches what your why is.
Yeah. I think that's a really important insight that a lot of people don't think about much, and I never did. But we go into business because we want certain things, a certain lifestyle. We want, freedom, time freedom, maybe financial freedom. Everyone wants to be able to call their own shots to a certain extent, and often business ownership takes all that away. And what I like about the franchise opportunities is because you can see what a future looks like with, franchise owners. And if you're doing something that energizes you, that you're, that brings you joy, I mean, this is a decision you can make, with the help of you and some other consultants and stuff that, that'll kind of change your life if you let it and pick the right opportunity.
That is so true because most of the people that I talk to, when you talk about franchising, they only think QSR, quick service restaurant. And specifically
Exactly.
in Louisville, it makes sense, right? Because Yum was only in our backyard forever.
Right.
I'm probably the one person who is in the Long John Silver's cult, keeping them alive, right? Because I enjoy that brand so much. But that's typically where our mind is. Our mind is. We don't think about other industries, home services,
Yeah.
cleaning and restoration, gyms, their retail spaces, boutiques, business to business consulting, right? Education. We don't think about these things from a franchise perspective. So what we try to do is guide people to the franchises that match not only their transferable skills, but their behaviors and values and desires as well. Because some people can come to me with, hey, I want this. And then you present four other things because I try to keep people with a whiteboard experience as far as their decisions are concerned, because they could run into a franchise that they never knew existed and it matches them, and it's almost like, wow, I never knew this was here. So that's part of the joy in doing that.
Yeah.
To
That's
Thomas's question, is there a top five list of most popular and lucrative? It depends on the industry. A lot of people that I'm talking to today are asking for franchises to do a couple of things. They're either recession proof or recession resilient. And a lot of people are very, very interested in those types of franchises. Home services is an example, and they're everything in home services from garage rehabs to kitchen rehabs to home work. That it just runs the gambit. Senior care is one that is also very active, very popular, just because of where we are from an age perspective, as far as society is concerned, and the number of people continuing to turn 65 out to the next few years, if not decade. So those are industries. Pilates, the gym industry is another one that people just don't necessarily think about, right? And from a popular or lucrative standpoint, there are some trade-offs there. And that being popular or lucrative, I know most people say that from a financial standpoint, but there is also an asset that I don't think people think enough about when they talk about business ownership, and that is the asset of your time. And no one can ever pay you enough for your time. So it's extremely important to you to understand how your lifestyle fit moves into your financial goals as well. Because if you're looking for more freedom, but you're spending more time in the business that you were spending when you work for someone else, you might not consider that freedom, although it provides you more money. So we really try to understand what that means for each individual.
Yeah, that is a great point. So let's jump into the nuts and bolts a little bit more, kind of hit on some of this stuff. But let's say I just hit on a concept, an opportunity, and then I get the FDD. What are the key points in that document that I want to pay attention to help me understand what the opportunity, what the risks are, and what my obligations are?
There are several sections. One I'll highlight, 19, and I believe it's 21, if I'm not mistaken. Both that deals with the financial performance of the organization from the last year. And they have to do the FDD documents have to be produced yearly, typically around the April timeframe that they have to be redone with the FTC. And then what the financial potential looks like for each of the franchisees. And that varies based upon market operations. So they have to show those for each of the franchise organizations. Some franchises they have to delineate between the franchise-owned operations and the franchisee-owned operations. They will also tell you about the number of franchises that exist. Some organizations are more mature than others, some are less mature, and you can see that through the FDD. You can also see their future strategy, how they're planning to grow, if they've closed a bunch of operations for various reasons, or if there are any legal actions that are outstanding against those organizations. Those are the kinds of pieces of operating knowledge that must be disclosed within the FDD.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so that basically you're looking at the health of the business, and then there's also a list of existing franchise operators, right, that you can contact?
So what happens is once we've gone through the development of the business model, and the business model would be a combination of your profile as well as the business model that we would build together. Then I present brands to a particular client. I
Okay.
try to present 3 or 4 brands to just give a nice variety of choices. If the client is excited about all of the brands that are presented, I try to limit it to 3 or 4 because then I do introductions to the actual franchise organization. And there's a 5 to 8 step process that each of the franchises will run through. I say 5 to 8 because it varies among franchisees, but you'll talk to a development representative, which is really an introduction to the brand and their process and how they work. But then there's a due diligence process that starts within the franchise where you'll begin to learn about unit economics, right, which was disclosed to you in the FDD. You will talk about marketing and product operations within those respective organizations. Once you have the unit economics conversations, they usually have each potential client sign a disclosure, and those disclosures release that FDD document. Once those meetings are taking place over time, and you get to a point where you've reviewed unit economics, you like what you're hearing, they will also open the door for you to begin to talk to existing franchise owners. And that is really where the rubber is going to meet the road. I suggest to my clients that they speak to someone who is a top performer, someone who is a middle of the road performer, and someone who is a low performer. And I do that because I want them to have a feel for what each of the owners are doing or not doing right that are making them successful. So you can get an honest view of how that franchise operates from 3 different perspectives, right? Just don't want them to paint a real rosy picture. I want you to see the entire picture of everything. From that experience, if those conversations go well, they do what is called a discovery day. And sometimes discovery day is virtual, and other times discovery day is in person. And the discovery day is really kind of the last bastion. At this point, you guys know you would want to do business together. The franchise is interviewing you, and you should be interviewing the franchise as well, right?
Mm.
So at that discovery day, if all goes well, you're typically signing a licensing agreement, right? Post that, and you're ready to go into business together. It's important, though, for the client to understand at any point in time through this entire experience, it is totally in the power and the capabilities of the client to say, hey, this franchise isn't what I'm interested in, or hey, I don't like this aspect of the process. I don't think this is the right time for me. You can pull the lever to stop the process at any time. That is
Mm.
always in the client's purview to be able to do.
Well, that's great. That's great to know. How long does the whole process take to start from zero to almost making a decision, kind of narrowing it down a little bit?
3 to 6 months.
Okay.
I've seen it go really on an average. It happens. I've seen it happen really fast at 40, and it's real fast if it's 45 days. Like they were working really succinctly. But typically, I've seen the 3 to 6 month time frame, 90
Okay.
to 120 days.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's important too because it is a time investment, right? You're going to meet with someone. You're going to meet with me if you're doing business. We're going to, have a meeting weekly. We begin to turn you over to the franchise to have conversations. They're going to want to meet with you weekly. You're going to doing research. You're going to provide content for you to review. So it becomes a time investment as well for individuals. And that, again, that goes back to the cost and the being lucrative from a business standpoint. You have to recognize that you're going to be putting your time in, and you're going to want to know that you feel comfortable about the goals that you set and the financial capability of the business that you're seeking to invest in.
Mhm. What's it look like just in general? I go through the process and now I've signed the franchise agreement and I'm a franchisor. So what happens the next day after I sign on the dotted line?
Hey, you get to hit the home run and go home, Dave. No, it varies based upon franchise, but typically they're going to get you engaged in their training and operating processes, methodology once you sign. So they're not gonna, throw you immediately to the wolves and say, "I need you to do business." For the senior care business that I referenced earlier with Tiffany, there are some trainings that she has to be engaged in with the company, as well as some licensure requirements for the state that she's going to operating in. Those things are going to take place on a parallel path, right? But that requires maybe a 3 month time frame before the business, can be opened, right? She's going to have to have a office location, and then phone lines and up and running. There are some requirements that the state gets involved with that particular business line that require a little bit more time before you get started. Cleaning and restoration, there's a certification that you have to get from a cleaning perspective that I think takes about 6 to 8 weeks for someone to pick up before they can be ready for operations from a cleaning business. Then you have other businesses that you could run from home, and all you need to do is go through the training, and then 3 weeks later you're ready to pop up. One that comes to mind is drywall repair service, right? In that business, you just have to understand and learn their systems, then begin marketing, and you're managing 1099 contractors. So it varies based upon the type of business someone gets signs an agreement with.
Hmm. Yeah. I guess the message there is like you said, you're just not thrown out in the world and it's sink or swim. I mean, these people are here to help you become successful, and when you're ready to turn the light switch on, you're trained up more or less on what needs to be done to be successful.
And a lot of that information, Dave, is going to come out through the due diligence process and be embedded in the FDD, because the requirements that they have for startups are going to vary from brand to brand. So
Mhm.
you may get in something that has regulations or certifications associated with it from the state. You're going to know your lead time is going to be maybe a little bit longer to actually open the door. Others, it's going to be shorter, but you're going to know that through the validation process and the due diligence process as you're being introduced to the brand.
Right. let's see. Aprila says, what about a caregiver?
Can you put a little bit more to that question? I just want to make sure that, April, I just want to make sure that I answer it correctly.
Yeah. I guess it's maybe some sort of medical training, I guess. Yeah.
This most senior care businesses that I've seen are non-medical in their processes. There are some that will require medical, right? Where you may have to have a nurse or a nurse practitioner engaged to be able to write care plans out. But again, those types of businesses again will come out through the due diligence and validation process that you're happy that deals with the
Right.
lead time of when you operate. But the one in the example today was a non-medical case. But when that person is gauging CNAs to get out and active as caregivers, they still have to have certain state certifications.
Okay.
Yeah,
You
no
just
problem.
answered the
Thanks.
question.
Thanks for the question. It's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. Okay. Generally, what like moving forward again, you're in operation. I mean, what in general ongoing support do most franchises provide their franchisees?
Every franchise is going to provide a level of product and training support for you. Some franchises even align coaches to their actual franchise owners to ensure that they're aligned with the processes and meeting the internally driven and established key performance indicators that allow them to, know what success will be, right? And everything goes out to paying attention to average unit volume, and that is really overall what your operating revenue or your sales revenue for that particular business is going to be.
Okay, that's good to know that you're just not.
Yeah,
That's part about being a business owner. Sometimes it's really lonely. You don't know where to turn. You're in it by yourself, lost in the forest sometimes. So
yeah, that's the benefit of a franchise, Dave, is you're in business, but you're not in business by yourself, right? So you have training, you have coaches that will be assigned to you, you have guides that can help you through right that experience. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that they're going to be in the business doing the day-to-day work for you, but you
Right.
do have folks that help align you to the existing processes that they know to be successful.
Yeah. One other quick question. Most franchises, you pay a royalty fee, but you also pay like a marketing fee. Talk a little bit about, what you get for the money that you're paying on royalties and marketing fees.
And I mentioned earlier when we talk about a total all-in investment, those total all-in investments always include the franchising fee. But when to the question that Dave is asking is like, why do you pay a franchising fee? Why do you pay a licensing fee? You do that for the back end support that you don't have when you're starting up a business from scratch on your own. So when I started my first business, I had my own computer, had my own laptop, but I didn't have my own systems. I didn't have a CRM. I didn't have a payroll tool. I didn't have, I had to, purchase my own phone system or email service. Like all of that, I had to use like Gmail. Those kinds of things will all be branded and packaged within the franchise that you buy. Email that they're going to be branded. You'll have access to their internal tools and software applications. You'll have access to their training materials. You'll have access to their marketing materials, right? Things that you will not have to create and design. Newsletters, for example, based upon the style of business that you are. Access to web tools. All of the things that you would have to purchase and build from scratch, those are the things that you're purchasing that are canned inside of the various franchise types that you purchase.
Mm-hmm. That's good to know. Good to know. Well, Gerald, this has been fantastic. This has been really eye-opening, and I learned quite a bit of stuff that I actually didn't really think about, even though I've been a franchise owner in the past. So thank you so much for all this.
Thank you for having me, and thanks everybody that was here. I hope that you picked up something you didn't know.
Yeah. And again, we'll be sending out the slides and the recording here in a couple days, so look for that. And then we will see everyone next week on another Toolkit Tuesday. Gerald, have a good afternoon. And everyone else, happy Tuesday. We'll see you next time. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.